Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the show. My name is Matt Morris. We are live right now on Rumble at Matt Morris TV and on YouTube at Matt Morris TV. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going live at a very abnormal time today, very early in the morning, frankly, afternoon on the East Coast. We are doing an emergency broadcast, and the reason why is because late last night at like 2 in the morning, the official White House presidential schedule website added an emergency press conference in the White House media room. Karoline Leavitt and maybe some special guests are going to be speaking to all of us today, and we can only speculate why. There is some drama, some controversy going on in the MAGA-verse, in the America First world, amongst the Donald Trump voter base, amongst the Donald Trump electorate. And so I've gone live actually about 30 minutes before Karoline Leavitt is set to go live in the White House press room to address all of this. Presumably that's what she's going to be talking about today. But right now, I'm telling you, this is going to be an interesting show because we have a lot to talk about. Let me say something real quick here, folks. How can I put this? You guys know that I am a diehard America First guy. I remember in 2015, I was attending Portland Community College in Portland, Oregon. Community College. This is the most radically progressive place, perhaps in the entire country. And I was walking around campus wearing my red Donald Trump Make America Great Again hat. Day one. Ride or die. Scorched earth, America First, MAGA all the way. That being said, and as you know, that's what my entire channel and that's what my entire broadcast is about. Now it's my full-time job, and I'm very fortunate to say that. That being said, whenever MAGA or America First deviates off course slightly, I genuinely believe that it is all of our patriotic obligation. It's our patriotic obligation to try to steer the ship back on course and counter-signal any negative development that is taking place. If, pardon my language, if shit is served to me on a plate, I'm not going to eat it. I'm going to say, send it back to the kitchen and send me what I want. This is not what I ordered. And so today, really that dynamic, as grotesque as that is, that really is what is going on amongst the MAGA base right now. People are pissed. People are pissed. And the reason why is because Donald Trump the other day appeared on a Fox News interview with Laura Ingraham. I love Laura Ingraham. I love her. I like her a lot. I like Donald Trump a lot. Anyway, Donald Trump, frankly, did not do that well in this interview. In fact, he had some pretty terrible answers. Now, I watched the entire interview. It's a full 45-minute long interview. 90% of what he said is great. But it's the 10% that really has people pissed off right now. Namely, three answers, three things, three different topics that he spoke about in this Laura Ingraham interview has people just absolutely riled up, just absolutely seething. And you know what? Rightfully so. And so I've gone live 25 or 30 minutes early today before, like I said, Karoline Leavitt is set to come on out here and address the nation and maybe try to clean this entire mess up. But I've gone live early today because what I want to do is go through some of this and really break it down and talk about what went wrong and what do we need to do to get this shit back on course. Is that okay? Is that fair, everybody? That's what we're going to be doing today. And then maybe at the end of the show, depending if the House is voting on reopening the government, we might actually watch the House vote at the end of this. We got to see. Depends on how the day lines up. But this might end up being a longer broadcast. But first, we've got to talk about what's going on here because, like I said, a lot of the MAGA voters, we are kind of pissed off right now. So the first thing I want to share with all of you. This is an excerpt from the Laura Ingraham Fox News interview that came out. Half of it was released yesterday or 2 days ago. The second half was released yesterday. So now we have the entire interview. Trump said in this interview that he wants to accept 600,000 Chinese students into the United States. And he then says that this is actually a pro-MAGA stance, that by accepting 600,000 Chinese students, this is America First. Let's play the clip.
folks are not thrilled about this idea of hundreds of thousands of foreign students in the United States. We have about 350,000 Chinese. One point during COVID, you were going to, push to, get them out, but that was pulled back. You've said as many as 600,000 Chinese students could come to the United States. Why, sir, is that a pro-MAGA position when so many American kids want to go to school and there are places not for them, and these universities are getting rich off Chinese money?
Sure. Never said about China, but we do have a lot of people coming in from China. We always have, China and other countries. We also have a massive system of colleges and universities. And if we were to cut that in half, which perhaps makes some people happy, you would have half the colleges in the United States go out of business.
So what?
So what?
Well, I think that's a big deal.
Are they fans
You would have the
of the United States?
Yeah, but you would have, as you know, historically, black colleges and universities would all be out of business.
So what?
You would have a system of colleges and universities would
so
go
we're
down
dependent
the
on
tubes.
China to keep our university system going?
But I think it's good to have, I actually think it's good to have outside countries. Look, I want to be able to get along with the world.
They're not the French. They're the Chinese. They spy on us. They steal our intellectual property.
What, do you think the French are better?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, really?
Yes.
No, I'll tell you, I'm not so sure. We've had a lot of problems with the French where we get taxed very unfairly on our technology, where, they put 25% taxes on American products. Look, assuming everyone treats us badly, because that's the way I am, but we take in trillions of dollars from students. The students pay more than double when they come in from most foreign countries. I want to see our school system thrive. But at the same time, I know you and I disagree. We're never going to agree on it, but that's okay. And it's not that I want them, but I view it as a business. We have millions and millions of people. Also, I want to get along with countries if possible. People are shocked. Remember, Hillary Clinton said, we'll be in a war. I stopped 8 wars in the last 9 months. I don't want to be in wars. If I am in a war, we're going to win the thing fast, and it'll be violent. But you know what? I don't want to be in wars. But one thing, you don't want to cut half of the people, half of the students from all over the world that are coming into our country, destroy
China.
Our entire university and college system. I don't want to do that.
I wouldn't lose any.
And don't forget, MAGA was my idea. MAGA was nobody else's idea. I know what MAGA wants better than anybody else. And MAGA wants to see our country thrive.
Respectfully, I think that MAGA does not want 600,000 students from China. Now, a couple things are said here. First off, I respect Laura Ingraham for pushing back on this directly to his face. I think, here's a little spoiler. Here's what I think is going on right now. I think Trump is surrounded by lobbyists and donors that are spinning him a line of bullshit. They are distorting what the base wants to him, and they're giving him fake news and misinformation in order to get him to sign off on a series of bad policies. Really, we're going to talk about 3 things he said in this interview today. This is the first one of which is this Chinese student policy here. For the last several years, we've been taking in, as a nation, every single year, we've been handing out around 350,000 Chinese student visas. 300 to 350,000 only for China exclusively. Now, what Trump wants to do here is double that number up to 600,000. Trump wants to double the number of Chinese student visas in order to subsidize the existence of various universities across the country. He says if we don't bring in 600,000 universities, then we will have universities across the country. They'll either have to downsize, they will either have to go out of business, and maybe even traditionally black universities will go to business also. I don't give a shit about that. I don't care. These universities, are we in the MAGA movement? Are we friendly with the universities? These universities, they do need to go out of business. Not all of them, but a lot of them do need to go out of business. We've got too many people, too many Americans going to university, getting wasteful degrees that are good for nothing, going into student loan and debt in the process. We actually need fewer Americans going to university, generally speaking. Beyond that, we have too many universities. So this idea that this is effectively a taxpayer bailout. We're going to take in 600,000 Chinese students to bail out the universities that are over-leveraged. Laura Ingraham lays out a great point here. She says, listen, if these universities need money from China, then maybe they shouldn't be in business in the first place. Yeah, that's a great point. Yes, and she is absolutely right. In the last 25 years, ladies and gentlemen, since the year 2000, the USA has recorded 224 individual instances of CCP nationals on U.S. soil, most of which have been here on student visas, spying on the United States of America, relaying information back to China. And those are only the instances that we have caught, that we have apprehended, that we have discerned. We've caught 224 cases of this. Chinese students, most of which are students, spying on the U.S. God knows how many of them in total, could be thousands. We've only caught 224 of them. I would imagine for every one we catch, maybe 10 go uncaught. It gets worse. In 2017, the CCP passed a piece of legislation called the National Intelligence Law of the People's Republic of China, which actually, check this out, this 2017 CCP legislation actually legislatively mandates that every single member of China, every single CCP citizen must act as an informant, as an intelligence asset to the CCP, to the Chinese government. If you are a CCP citizen, then you must act as an intelligence asset to the CCP as of 2017. So, ladies and gentlemen, when I say this, I mean this literally. If we hand out 600,000 student visas to a bunch of Chinese students, we are accepting 600,000 Chinese spies, like literally in accordance with this piece of Chinese legislation. That is a fact, quite literally. Fundamentally, I also reject the notion that this is a business. America is not a business. America is a homeland. America is a people. We Americans have our roots here. I don't want to be, I'm an American. My family has been here since 1635. Okay? There are things in this world, in this nation, that ought to mean something more than GDP and maximizing revenue. America is not a rootless, baseless economic zone. America is a country. It is my homeland. It is our homeland. And I don't want to give out 600,000 student visas to a bunch of Chinese students, members of the Chinese Communist Party. Most of which are, well, all of which are informants for the CCP, legislatively so. We should not be doing this. China is a hostile nation. China is perhaps our biggest threat as we navigate the 21st century. We should not do this. And if that means downsizing our university system or cutting away, all these universities, they're buying, new athletic arenas and sporting stadiums and brand new multi-million-dollar libraries. Maybe they need to cut back on some of those kind of wasteful expenditures. Maybe these universities need to go back to basics. Maybe they need to stop offering all these flamboyant, cash-grabby degrees. Maybe they need to stop being degree mills. Maybe we need to have fewer people go in university. Maybe the universities need to become more elite and more gate-kept. Maybe they do need to downsize. Maybe some of them do need to go out of business. Maybe not every person should go to university. Maybe we should be telling people to get into the trades or blue collar or pursue a destiny in the free market. We should not be subsidizing this industry by handing out 600,000 visas to Chinese spies. So that is the first controversial thing that is going on here. This has the MAGA base up in arms. People are very upset about this. President Trump went on in this very same interview to talk about H-1B visas. Similarly, this is a sensitive issue for Americans. A lot of Americans, historically, for the last couple of years especially, have had a difficult time finding jobs. We have many Americans that are fresh out of college, young Americans, that can't find a job because the jobs are being outsourced and given to low-wage, low-skill foreign workers, 80% of H-1B visa recipients are from India. Americans don't want their jobs being given to Indians. I'm sorry, we don't want our jobs being given to foreigners. Americans in America should not have to compete with immigrants from the third world. The reason why we have a country, the reason why we have a nation is so that we don't need to compete. As an American laborer, I don't want to compete against third world slaves, against slave labor from the third world. That is my expectation as an American, and I expect my American leadership to not make me compete against slave labor from the third world. Let's play the clip here. Trump said something very controversial. This is probably the clip that has people the most pissed off right now, and you're going to understand why here in a minute.
Republicans have to talk about it, Laura.
And does that mean the H-1B visa thing will not be a big priority for your administration? Because if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent. When
we have plenty of talented people
no,
here.
you don't. No, you don't.
We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have certain talents, and people have to learn.
We've got our live feed from inside the White House press conference. That is what he just said has people very, very pissed off. Very, very aggravated. I don't know if you guys remember this. This was Christmas of 2024, almost a year ago exactly, when Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy on Christmas Day had an absolute crash out on Twitter expressing this same opinion, saying, we don't have highly skilled labor in America. We need Indians from India to come and do these jobs because we just don't have we're not smart enough to do these jobs. Whatever these jobs are. This is why we need Indians. This is why we need 150,000 Indians every single year. We don't. We do not. I reject the notion. I am America first. I believe Americans are the brightest, most intelligent people with the most potential of anywhere in the world. There's a reason why America has become the country that it has. It's because Americans are awesome. We are great. We are ingenious. The amount of ingenuity that has poured out of this country over the last 250 years is second to none. No other country can stand toe-to-toe with the things we have done in this country. Americans are the most ingenious people to ever live on this planet. Also worth noting, the H-1B visa didn't even go into effect until 1991. So this idea that, well, we need 150,000 Indian laborers to make our country great. Actually, no, we don't. This is a new program. It's 33 years old. America actually, since the introduction of the H-1B program, has gotten worse. America has gotten worse. I reject the notion that we need these people. Now, I'm going to restart this. We're going to listen to the entire clip here.
Republicans have to talk about it, Laura.
And does that mean the H-1B visa thing will not be a big priority for your administration? Because if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent.
We have plenty of talented people here.
No, you don't.
We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have certain talents, and people have to learn. You can't take people off an unemployment line and say, I'm going to put you into a factory where we're going to make missiles, or I'm going to put
How did we ever do it before?
Why not? Why can't we? Hey, this right here, why can't we take people off the unemployment? We do have unemployed Americans. I'll tell you what, 8% of recent young American STEM graduates can't get a job in their own respective field. 8% of American STEM graduates, science, technology, engineering, math, smart kids, smart young Americans, they can't get jobs in their own respective field because their jobs have been given to Indians in the H-1B visa program. That's if they got into university at all. We've got programs like affirmative action that have racially discriminated against young American white men. University enrollment is a zero-sum game, meaning there are only so many university spots for every one Chinese foreigner getting admitted into the program. That's one less American getting admitted into the program. It's zero-sum. There's only so many spots. So at a time when we've got tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of bright, young, capable young Americans that have spent their entire life getting racially discriminated against, I'm not really in the mood to be told that we need Chinese ingenuity or that we need Indian ingenuity. No, we don't. No, we don't.
Well, I'll give you an example. In Georgia, they raided because they wanted illegal immigrants out. They had people from South Korea that made batteries all their lives. You know, making batteries are very complicated. It's not an easy thing and very dangerous. A lot of explosions, a lot of problems. They had like 500 or 600 people, early stages, to make batteries and to teach people how to do it. Well, they wanted them to get out of the country. You're going to need that, Laura. I mean, I know you and I disagree on this. You can't just say a country's coming in, going to invest $10 billion to build a plant, and going to take people off an unemployment line who haven't worked in 5 years, and they're going to start making missiles. It doesn't work that way.
This rhetoric, unemployment line, this really bothers me. this verbiage, unemployment line, as if this is like, I don't know. Listen, like I said, young Americans, namely young white Americans, have been systematically screwed over for decades now. You've got DEI hiring practices. They said, oh, listen, we have enough white men. We're going to go hire Shaniqua. We need to hire a couple more Tyrones and Shaniquas. We don't have room in the business for any white men right now. Sorry. This is DEI, which has now been ruled unconstitutional about 6 months ago, thank God. For decades, we had affirmative action, which racially discriminated against young white men, white people going into universities. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. We need to give these jobs. Here is what President Trump should be doing. Listen, in fact, right now, he's doing it in one regard. Right now, we have a shortage of ICE agents. We need ICE agents. Right now, the government is pedal to the metal. They're putting out offers, advertisements, promotional offers saying, listen, we are hiring ICE agents, $50,000 sign-on bonus, training, this and that. Here are the benefits. We are hiring ICE officers. I love that. That is the way that these things should be done. If we have a problem with, if we need people to manufacture lithium batteries in a new manufacturing facility that's getting opened up in the U.S., we should have a national initiative. Trump should come out and say, listen, Americans, patriotic obligation. We need young, bright, genius Americans to participate in this new battery production program. It's going to be government subsidized. We need Americans to step up and make these batteries national security risk, save the country. And we know they can do that. That's exactly what they are doing with ICE right now, and DHS and CBP. So these programs exist. I want to see more of them. If we have a shortage of nurses, let's do this for nurses. If we have a shortage of battery manufacturers, let's train Americans. Let's get these Americans involved. We've got Americans that want jobs. They're fresh out of college. They're STEM graduates. They are smart, and they can't get jobs because of all this institutional discrimination against young white Americans. This is a fact. We have Americans that want to do this, and they are ingenious enough. They can do it. We don't need to import 150,000 people from India. I reject the notion. I reject the notion. In fact, you know what? So does J.D. Vance. This is what he said about this 2 months ago.
But I make a couple points about this. First of all, I've heard a lot of the criticisms, the fear that we're going to have a brain drain. If you go back to the 50s and 60s, the American space program, the program that was the first to put a human being on the surface of the moon, was built by American citizens, some German and Jewish scientists who had come over during World War II, but mostly by American citizens who had built an incredible space program with American talent. This idea that American citizens don't have the talent to do great things, that you have to import a foreign class of servants and professors to do these things, I just reject that. I actually think we invest in our own people, we can do a lot of good. You've heard that criticism in particular as the president has talked about cracking down on foreign student visas and their abuses, but I think that's actually an opportunity for American citizens to really flourish. And here's the
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Vice President J.D. Vance 2 months ago talking about how he's similar to me. He rejects the notion. We have American talent. Americans are genius. We need to activate the Americans that we have pushed to the side for decades. We can activate them, tap into them. America first. You know what is you know what? This is an integral part of America first. Americans first. If you want to put America first, we need to put the Americans therein first. That means believing in the American youth and the American labor force, getting them on board, activating them, integrating them into the market, and not importing 150,000 people from India every year, or bringing in 600,000, well over 500,000 CCP spies every single year. That's what we should not do. And so you have J.D. Vance 2 months ago, really at direct odds with what President Trump is saying in this Ingram interview. Matt Walsh chimes in. He says, even if it were true that we don't have enough talented people in this country, which it isn't, that is not true. We do have talented people. That would be all the more reason to stop importing foreigners. We need to train up our own people. Give actual Americans a shot. What does he say? America is for who? For Americans. America is for Americans. America was built by Americans. Like I said, this whole H-1B visa program, was only kicked into effect in 1991. And every year since then, I think we can all agree America pretty much has gotten worse since then. Foreign labor has driven down wages for actual Americans. We all know that's the case. It has spiraled inflation out of control. Matt Morris, you sound racist AF. Yeah, I probably am a little bit racist. You're just going to have to deal with that. It is what it is. I'm a young white man. I've spent 31 years of my life being told that white men are responsible for every single problem, not only in this country, but in the world. I am probably a little bit racist. You're just going to have to fucking deal with that. Anyway, beyond that, low-wage immigrants have driven down wages for actual Americans. Low-wage immigrants coming in the country to the tune of tens of millions have driven up housing prices. They've got to live somewhere. And they've also forced actual Americans out of the university system. This is a problem. The country has not gotten better. The country has not gotten better as we have seen this influx of third world immigrants into the country. The country's gotten worse. Under every single metric conceivable, the country's gotten worse. We need to stop this. That is why we voted for President Trump. I love President Trump. I do. I love him in the maximal way and least homosexual way. I love what this man has done for the country. And it is because of this love and it is because of this respect that I feel a patriotic obligation to air my grievances. I believe that if you love someone and you love a movement and an idea and a political philosophy, you need to push back when things go off the rails. Because if we don't, then they're never going to get back on the rails. I genuinely believe it is our patriotic obligation when we hear things that are not America first to speak up about it. And to assert otherwise, listen. Some of you that are saying, shut up, trust the plan, silence, stop talking, stop asking questions. First off, this notion of trusting the plan is quite literally a 1920s Soviet psyop. You know that the Communist Party in Soviet Russia in the 1920s created this trust the plan narrative in order to convince all of the anti-communists in the early days of Soviet Russia to sit around doing nothing, accomplishing nothing, believing that there was some plan in action when there actually was no plan. This trust the plan idea was concocted by the Soviets in the 1920s to convince actual anti-communists to sit around on their ass doing nothing. So no, I'm not going to trust the plan. What I am going to do is exercise my First Amendment patriotic right, no, obligation that the founding fathers fought and died for, my ancestors fought and died for, to hold the elected leadership accountable, because that is what it is to be an American. That is what it is to love this country. Sitting around zipping your mouth, refusing to talk back to our elected leadership, that's perhaps the least American thing you can do. That is anti-American. It is our patriotic obligation to speak up and to share our voice and to hold our elected leadership accountable. President Trump goes on to talk about 50-year mortgages. This is probably the least controversial of the three things we're going to talk about today. Carolyn Levitt is coming out any minute now, and we're going to watch this. I want to make sure I'm not missing this. I'm going to put this over here so I can keep tabs on this. 50-year mortgages. Let's take a look at this.
Housing costs are still out of reach. And another thing that your administration is trying to tackle, many Americans, the average age of first-time home buyers are now up to age 40, which is sad. The country you and I grew up in.
I inherited that. Look, you have to understand.
Right, but let me get to the question, though, because your housing director has proposed something that has enraged your MAGA friends, which is this 50-year mortgage idea. So a significant MAGA backlash, calling it a giveaway to the banks and simply prolonging the time it would take for Americans to own a home outright. Is that really a good idea?
It's not even a big deal. I mean, you go from 40 to 50 years. And what it means is you pay something less from 30. That some people had a 40, and then now they have a 50. All it means is you pay less per month. You pay it over a longer period of time. It's not like a big factor. It might help a little bit. But the problem was that Biden did this. He increased the interest rates, and I have a lousy Fed person who's going to be gone in a few.
So I was just curious about the numbers behind this. I wanted to look into this. In the year 2025, the median price of a starter home, of a first-time home buyer home in the USA right now is $415,000. The average American starter home is $415,000. The median age of the first-time home buyer in America is 40 years old. The average American first-time home buyer right now is 40 years old. To say that we have a housing crisis is an understatement. This is a problem. If you go back to 1980, the average age of a first-time home buyer was 29 years old. This is spiraling out of control. This is a massive problem. So if you are a median American, age 40, and you take out a mortgage on a $415,000 house, which is the average starter house, at an interest rate of 6%, which is actually a little bit low right now, you take out this 50-year mortgage. Congratulations, you will pay off your home, your $415,000 home, by the time you are 90 years old, after having paid over $850,000 in interest in the process on a $415,000 home. We do most certainly have a housing crisis. This is not the solution. I also think that normalizing or pushing forward dynamics that are frankly this predatory, this is not a good idea. This is not a good thing. We need to be solving this housing crisis in other ways. And so let me tell you what I think is going on here. Maybe I am too apologetic towards President Trump. I love him. I really do. And so maybe I'm about to be too nice. But let's run through some of these ideas. Who benefits from 600,000 Chinese student visas coming into the country every single year? Well, these multi-billion-dollar university lobby groups that have hundreds of millions of dollars every year to throw around at politicians. They do. They benefit from 600,000 Chinese student visas. They make a hell of a lot of money at our expense. Who benefits from tens of thousands of low-wage H-1B workers from India? Big tech. Multi-billion, multi-trillion-dollar organizations with hundreds of millions of dollars to throw around at various politicians, and they do. And they do. Who benefits from normalizing 50-year mortgages and pushing them on young Americans, or Americans in general? The banks, multi-trillion-dollar banks, the money lenders, the usurers, who are throwing hundreds of millions of dollars every single year at politicians to push their agenda. So when I see these ideas, 600,000 student visas, Chinese spies, hundreds of thousands of low-skill, low-wage H-1B Indian workers, who wants that? Most certainly not Americans. Big tech wants that. Who wants the student visas? The universities want that because they're making a hell of a lot of money. Who benefits from 50-year mortgages? The banks, the lenders, the loaning offices. And so what I think is going on right now, we are 10 months into Trump's second term here. I think that I don't know who it is inside of the Trump administration. Susie Wiles? I don't know. That is who here has seen Lord of the Rings? Remember Wormtongue? Who's seen Lord of the Rings? There was Wormtongue who was whispering into the ear of the king. Yeah. He was whispering all types of lies and poison. I think we have a Wormtongue situation. I think that somebody in the Trump administration is looking to separate Trump from his base. They are telling him, no, the MAGA voters, the base wants this. The Trump voters, the America First agenda loves Chinese student visas to the tune of 600,000 per year. The America First base, they love H-1B Indian workers. The America First base, they love 50-year mortgages. I think Trump is getting deceived. I think he's getting this twisted. I think somebody is deceiving him because I'll tell you what, I haven't seen Trump voters more pissed off today, last night, yesterday, because of this Ingram interview. I haven't seen people more pissed off in months. I don't know, probably since we were dropping bombs on Iran. That was controversial, the Iran stuff. Thank God that ended up being okay. But people are pissed right now. And so this is really what we're here to talk about today. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt, late last night on the official White House schedule page, threw on an emergency White House press conference. Emergency White House press conference was thrown on the schedule last night at like 2 a.m. They pulled this thing out of nowhere. And so I think that probably today, literally any minute now, it's scheduled to happen now. So any second, I think they're going to come on out. I think Carolyn Leavitt's going to come on out here and try to do some damage control. Maybe offer some clarifying information. Maybe maybe there's a big misunderstanding. Maybe there's a big misunderstanding. So, before I jump to any crazy, insane conclusions here, what I want to do is I want to hear from the Trump administration. I want to hear what they have to say. I want to hear every single side of the equation. I want to have as much information as I possibly can. I want to give the benefit of the doubt. And that's the way that I do this. And that's the way that I do this. But listen, I have to say something here while we wait. Some of you in the chat, shut up, stop asking questions, trust the plan. I am unsubscribing. I really don't want you here. I'm going to be honest. In my opinion, the thing that differentiates us in the America First community from the far left, from the radical left, is that we know how to think, is that we are critical thinkers, is that we are not afraid to push back from the establishment, is that we are not afraid to express our voices and our opinions and our beliefs, and that we are not afraid to push back against our leadership if they do slightly deviate off of course, which seems to be what's going on right now. But listen, if you're one of these guys, hey, you're not allowed to ask any questions or want more information or expect answers. Where do you think you are? You might need to go watch the Kamala Harris broadcast. That's not how we do it here. What type of community do you think this is? We are patriotic, America-loving Americans. And we do expect to get what we want. We do expect answers. So I want Carolyn Leavitt to come on out here and explain what the hell's going on here. That's what I expect to see. But I'm not a plan truster. I am a question asker. I am an information gatherer. I'm not a plan truster. And of course, because I respect and admire and value and appreciate President Trump and his administration, I'm not out here saying F Trump and F this and F that and, it's over. I reject the black pill. I reject all of those notions. However, I'm going to be asking some clarifying questions. You can bet your ass of that. I do want some more information here. What's going on here? I want to know what's going on. That's me. And so, ladies and gentlemen, right now, Carolyn Leavitt is going to be stepping on out. Is that her? Nope, that's some dude. That's some guy. Carolyn Leavitt's going to be stepping on out inside the White House press briefing room. The press is standing by, and we're going to be having our questions answered. That's what's going to be happening. I have to say real quick, one of the most comical twists of fate is that this whole notion of trust the plan, no questions allowed, trust the plan. This quite literally is a 1920s era Soviet psyop. When the Bolsheviks were seizing control of the country, they came up with a psyop plan. They said, hold up, wait a minute. What if we create a fake narrative for all of our opposition, the anti-communists? What if we create this trust the plan psyop in order to get them to sit on the sidelines doing nothing, not combating us, not pushing back against us? They're going to think that they're fighting the plan, when really they're just sitting there waiting for something to happen, when absolutely nothing is happening, and the communists are seizing control of the country. This is literally a 1920s era Soviet psyop. So, no, I'm not doing that. This is ridiculous. We're not doing that. Now, like I said, any second here. While I have a moment here, I probably should take a look at some super chats. I've got some super chats coming in. Maybe you guys are super pissed off at me. I don't know. Maybe I'm beyond the pale today. Idea. This is from Paz. He says, idea, subsidize trade schools and pause student H-1B visas, Americans first. That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. You know what? You call me a socialist. I don't know. This is what I would love to see. Maybe I am a socialist. Call me what you want. I don't really care. I believe that genuinely, if an American has a 4.1 GPA, 4.2, they are excelling, they are ingenious. I don't have a problem with them going to university on the taxpayer's dollar. I really don't. I don't have a problem in using the federal government to support and prop up the most talented Americans we have and make sure that they become as high-functioning, contributing members of this country as they possibly can. This idea, like I would hate to have a situation in this country where you have a genius young American who has a 4.2 high school GPA. They're a rock star, and their family doesn't have the money to go to university, and so they're squandered potential. What a waste. I would hate to see that. So, but God forbid, we don't need to be giving student visas to Chinese nationals, to CCP operatives. That's ridiculous. We ought not be doing that. And trade schools, you want to subsidize trade schools? Fine. That's a good idea. Christy Wu, she says, standing ovation. Okay, so maybe I'm not too far off base. Thank you, Christy. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. Listen, I'm just not going to tolerate this, okay? We have had literal decades of young, I will make it racial. I'm going to make it racial, of young white Americans that are ingenious, that are excelling, that have been told they can't go to university. There's not places for them in the university system because of programs like affirmative action. They say, we have too many white people. We need to give the spots to a black or an Asian or a Jew or a this or a that. We don't have room for white people. They've been sidelined by nature of their race. That is despicable. We need to get these people back involved. And then if they do make it through the university system, they can't get hired at the job. They can't get the job at the facility, at the highly skilled facility that they want to work at, because, well, they need more blacks or non-whites or whatever. And this is in accordance with these DEI affirmative action hiring programs. It's been a living hell for young men in this country. They've been kicked to the sidelines, and young white men specifically in this country have every single reason to be mad. And then on top of that, I'm 31. I'll speak on behalf of us. My entire K through 12 public school education, I'm a product of the public school system. My entire K through 12 public school education experience was effectively designed to beat the narrative into my brain that white men are solely and exclusively responsible for all of the problems in the country and the entire world. Slavery, bad. White people invented slavery. Racism, bad. White people invented racism. Colonization, bad. White people invented colonization. Discrimination, bad. Misogyny, bad. White people invented all of these things. White men, just like you, your ancestors, evil. You're bad. Blood guilt. You're bad. Young white men have every single reason to be pissed off in this country. Their country has been taken from them. They've been led to believe that they are irredeemably and uniquely evil, and their country has been taken from them. It's evil. And so I'm not exactly in the mood to hear this notion, to hear this idea that, well, we just don't have the intelligent workers in this country, so we need 150,000 Indian workers. Spare me. I'm not in the mood to hear that. Well, we just don't have young, bright Americans to go to the university system, so we need to import 600,000 Chinese students every year. Not exactly interested in that. And also, I don't really care whether or not these universities go under. What have these universities done for me? They called me racist. They discriminated against me. What have these universities done for the America First agenda? 24/7, all year, 365 days a year, they're spewing out far-left, communist, radically progressive propaganda. What have they done for us? Why do I need to care so much about these radically progressive universities to such a degree that I'm willing to hand out 600,000 Chinese student visas to a country that is adversarial to us, that is habitually spying on us, that is looking to facilitate the downfall of my country, that has been engaging in economic terrorism and economic predation against my country for decades? Why do I need to care about those people? And why do I need to care about the institutions? I'm not having it. I have no investment in those people. I have no investment in those institutions. I want to take those institutions back, is what I want to do. I don't want to continue facilitating the handoff to Chinese foreign nationals. I don't want to continue facilitating the handoff of the American manufacturing sector to low-wage immigrants from the third world, from India, in the H-1B visa program. I want to stop that. I am illiberal. I want my country back. I want crime to be punished. I want this country to be brought back to its former glory and be given back to the men and women that built this country. I don't want my country to be robbed from me and my children and my grandchildren. I want the country back that my ancestors built for me, not for H-1B Indian workers, not for Chinese students, for me and my children and for you and for your children. That's what I want. That is why I'm interested in the America First agenda. And to the extent that the America First agenda fails to do that, I am going to be mad. I am going to be pissed off, and I will talk about it, and I'm not going to trust the plan. I'm not going to close my eyes and say, la, 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 this isn't happening. If it is, at the first inkling of this happening, you can bet your ass I'm going to talk about it. Now, luckily, I do genuinely believe this. I do believe that Trump listens to the base, and I do believe that when the base gets riled up and pissed off, as I am, as you should be, I believe that President Trump does feel that pressure, and I believe that President Trump does feel that heat. I believe he does. Trump is a populist. Trump is a national populist. And if the people, the population, speak up, I really do think that if we yell from the rooftops, Trump, what are you doing, dude? You've surrounded yourself with anti-American freaks that are looking to sell out the country. I do believe that we have the capacity and the potential to try to snap Trump out of this stupor that he might be in right now. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I want to tell you something, guys. Listen, I've got no professional connections. I've got no inside source inside the White House. I don't talk to anybody. I'm not connected with anybody in Washington, D.C. I am a guy in an office in my house in North Idaho. My backyard is a forest, and I've got 2 kids and a wife and a German Shepherd. I don't have media training. I didn't come out of some think tank. I'm not taking money from any NGO or organization. I've got no affiliation to anybody other than this country and the people therein. That's me. And so, yeah, maybe I am a little bit rough around the edges. It's because I care about the country. And no, maybe sometimes I'm not going to bite my tongue, and I am going to push back. That's because I love the country. Really, that's my motivation. That's my compulsion. Right now, many points of the America First agenda are still being publicly litigated. We'll say that. Right around half the country doesn't believe in the America First agenda. They say we don't need deportations. We don't need to have a closed border. They say we don't need tariffs. My goal every single day that I go live here on Rumble and YouTube, or that I make a video, my goal right now every single day is not to blindly defend Trump. For me, the picture is ideology. It's more than Trump. Trump is a vehicle of the ideology that this country needs. The America First agenda, these national populist, paleo-conservative ideas, nativist ideas, these are the only thing that have the potential to save this country. And if we do not pursue these ideas, the America First agenda, we will lose the country. We'll lose the country. Now, Trump is the vehicle that is pushing these ideas forward. But if he ever fails to do that, or if he ever makes a wrong step, I really do believe it's our American patriotic obligation to say, listen, Trump, hey, listen, Trump, you got to step over here. Out of love and respect and admiration, Trump, you stepped off a little bit over there. We got to step back over here. And the reason why I am so passionately invested in this is because, yes, I really do believe that the fate of the republic depends on the success of the America First agenda. Trump is only going to be here for another 3 years, at which point his second term is going to come to an end. Then we're going to have a national discussion. Who picks up the mantle? Does anybody pick up the mantle at all? It's conceivable that the America First agenda dies with Trump, and people say, we tried the deportation thing, didn't really work. I don't feel like my life got better, so we're going to reopen the border. We're going to stop the deportations. We're going to remove the tariffs. We're going to stop shutting down immigration. We're going to stop pursuing a nativist agenda. That's entirely possible. And so I really do believe, for me, every day, you see a lot of other right-wing commentators that are saying, they're black-pilled. They're dooming. I see that everywhere. They say Trump isn't fulfilling on this promise or that promise or this promise. This is my personal approach. Even if Trump only ends up delivering on 10% of the deportations that we all thought we were going to get, what I want to do is say, ladies and gentlemen, people of America, American electorate, these are the deportations we got. Here are the tangible, real-world, day-to-day ways in which your life has gotten better as a result of these deportations, which is why we need more deportations. Like I said, these ideas are still being litigated. My job, I want to convince people every single day that these America First policy points, they work, They are important. The republic depends on them, and that's why they are worth continuing to pursue every single day. Beyond Trump, during Trump now, and beyond Trump moving forward, deportation's good. Here's why we want more. Tariffs good. Here's why we want more. Repatriating American manufacturing good. Here's why we want more. Point after point after point. I want to moralize, not demoralize about the America First agenda. I want to moralize and spread positivity about why we need and want these things. That's my job. I view that as my job. I view that as I'm in a unique position. I'm in a unique situation. I guess the role I'm in here, because you guys put me in that role. Thank you. And I view that as my patriotic American obligation to say, here's why the America First agenda is important and worth continuing to invest in. And so I get heated because I care, because I really care. Like I said, I'm not media trained. I haven't been coached by a bunch of Washington, D.C. insiders. This is how you should speak. These are the things you should say, and these are the things you shouldn't say. You can talk about this, but you can't talk about that. You can say this, but you can't say that. Really, the only person that tells me what to say is me, because I'm an American. And that's where we're at. Now I'm going to take a look at some of these super chats. Revive Studio says, it's not socialism if you earned it 4.0 GPA is putting in the work, so no worries. You're still a believer in merit law, the meritocracy. We got to bring the meritocracy back. Thank you, Revive Studios. Thank you. There are a lot of super chats here. I either pissed you guys off or you guys love what I'm saying. I need to take a look here. Alexander says, Carolyn is going to have a handful today. There are thousands of people being laid off in corporate positions, stay-at-home jobs, movie, anime, by AI. There will be plenty of people to replace the jobs illegals are taking. We have Americans that want jobs. We have young, qualified Americans that want jobs. Young, qualified Americans do not want to hear about why we need Chinese students and H-1B workers. They don't want to hear about that. They want to hear about what jobs are available to them now, how they can have a career, how they can pursue. Young Americans don't want to hear about how we're facilitating the American dream for Indian workers. Young Americans want to hear about the American dream for them because they are Americans and they deserve it. And it is their birthright. That's what they want to hear. And we owe it to them. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Don't Tread on Me says, as a Black American veteran, agree with you, Matt. I was talking about technical schools decades ago. MAGA is just a word if we keep bringing in foreigners. America first. America first means exactly that. Sometimes people forget this. Hey, I love you. Hey, my brother. I'm sorry. Hey, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Hey, mom, I made a black friend. Let's go. Sorry. Hey, I'm joking. Hey, thank you very much. No, listen, people forget. I don't know. People seem to forget that a fundamental component of America first is Americans first, like you and like me and like all of us. Americans need to come first if we really want to pursue America first. It's about the Americans therein. And you're right. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. God bless. Thank you very much. Sorry, I get a little bit silly. I'm sorry. Oh, is that hurt? No, any minute now. Let me see here. Bought and Paid For says, just a question. What will you do if America collapses? Who or what will you put your faith in? Well, America won't collapse. America will not collapse in my lifetime by nature of me being alive. And I would expect you to have that same sentiment as well. As long as you are breathing, you should not allow America to collapse. I reject the notion. I reject the hypothetical. I won't even humor the idea. It is an intolerable hypothetical. What am I going to do if America collapses? Guess what? It won't. Because we are not going to let it. Anyway, thank you. Next question. No, thank you. I appreciate that. I'll take a look at this one here. This is from Crap Out. He says, $10 super chat. He says, Vance Freitas. I don't even know who that is. Freitas? 2028. Maybe I'm out of the loop. I don't know who Freitas is. Freight ass? Who's Freight ass? They got a big ass? I don't know who I don't know who that is. Hey, thank you. Thank you. Oh, there's Carolyn Levitt. Here we go, folks. The moment we've all been waiting for.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here today. We are going to get to my remarks in Q&A as always, but I do have the FBI director with me here, Kash Patel. You all know him well.
Oh, excellent.
And he's here to provide an update for you all with respect to China. As you know, President Trump had a very successful meeting on his trip to Asia with President Xi, where they discussed the need for China to crack down on fentanyl production and distribution, which ultimately makes its way here to the United States of America. And the FBI director recently traveled to China following President Trump's meeting to meet with his counterpart in Beijing. And he has a really positive announcement for the American people to share.
Okay.
So the president wanted me to bring the FBI director out to share that with all of you today. So Kash, please, thank
Excellent.
you for being here.
Thanks, Caroline. As Caroline mentioned, we have some tremendous news thanks to President Donald J. Trump once again for the American people. As soon as the President of the United States took office, he issued a mandate to rid America of the scourge that is fentanyl, a drug that has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. Thanks to his leadership and direct engagements with China, we set up a framework to execute that mission 8 months ago. Attorney General Bondi immediately thereafter took steps to engage her counterpart in China at the Ministry of Public Security. Pursuant to their direct discussions, as the FBI director designated to run counterpoint on this, along with the Secretary of State Rubio and Ambassador Perdue and the team here at the White House, we set forward a path to implement the policy needed to crush the plague of fentanyl.
Okay.
Deputy Attorney General Blanche and our teams have been hard at work ever since, ultimately culminating in my trip to Beijing last week. This was only possible due to President Trump's historic engagement with President Xi just a few short weeks ago that set the stage for today's announcement. At that meeting, the leaders reached an agreement. But just to put this in frame for the American people, a reminder here that nearly 100,000 people died of fentanyl overdoses just last year alone. Here, this year, under this president, the FBI has seized 1,900 kilograms of fentanyl so far. That is a 31% increase from the same time period last year. To put it in perspective, that's enough fentanyl to kill 127 million Americans. Fentanyl precursors are what makes up fentanyl. While we, the interagency, the Department of Justice, have been fighting hard to seize and stop drug traffickers, we must attack fentanyl precursors, the ingredients necessary to make this lethal drug.
It's true.
That was the sole purpose of my trip to China, to eliminate these precursors. And if successful, we would suffocate the drug trafficking organization's ability to manufacture fentanyl in places like Mexico. This was the first time an FBI director has been to China in over a decade and received the audience with his counterpart to address this matter directly. And again, thanks to President Trump's direct engagement with President Xi, the government of China committed fully to my engagement there on the ground in Beijing at a level never seen before. While at Ministry of Public Security headquarters, I met with my counterpart at MPS, where the Chinese government agreed on a plan to stop fentanyl precursors. What does that mean? The People's Republic of China has fully designated and listed all 13 precursors utilized to make fentanyl. Furthermore, they have agreed to control 7 chemical subsidiaries that are also utilized to produce this lethal drug. Effective immediately, essentially, President Trump has shut off the pipeline that creates fentanyl that kills tens of thousands of Americans. These substances are now banned, and they will no longer be utilized by the Mexican drug trafficking organizations or any other DTOs around the world to make this drug.
Good.
This historic achievement has saved tens of thousands of lives. This historic achievement would not have been possible without the tremendous team of President Trump, the Attorney General, the Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and Ambassador Perdue in China, whose ground-level engagements were imperative to achieving this result. This is yet another example of how President Trump defends the American people, provides security for the American people, and puts the American people first. This is a historic first-in-its-kind achievement by any president to stop the scourge of fentanyl, and it should be championed by every single American. This achievement will save lives. We are thankful for President Trump's steadfast leadership, and this FBI will fearlessly follow in his footsteps to ensure that this mission of safeguarding the American public is achieved every single day. Thank you. Thanks, Caroline.
undeniably good news.
Appreciate it.
That's good news.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Director Patel. Before we get going, I do have one quick scheduling announcement. Tomorrow, President Trump will be joined by the First Lady in the East Room for an executive order signing aimed at expanding opportunities for education, career development, housing, and other resources for young people transitioning from foster care to adulthood. This is part of the First Lady's Fostering the Future efforts, which are a Be Best initiative. In other news, the Democrats dragged on the government shutdown for 43 days, the longest shutdown in U.S. history. But tonight, thanks to Republicans, the White House is very hopeful that this shutdown is going to come to an end. The damage caused by the Democrats with this reckless government shutdown cannot be forgotten. It is entirely the fault of the Democrat Party. Just look at the vote count.
Oh, yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of federal employees have missed their paychecks. Tens of billions in wages and benefits were withheld, impacting vulnerable families. Millions of low-income Americans missed their SNAP benefits. Nearly 20,000 flights at airports across the country were delayed due to staffing shortages, causing Americans to miss family events, vacations, and work obligations. According to Airlines for America, an estimated 5.2 million travelers have had their flights disrupted over the course of the Democrat shutdown. And our economy has lost billions and billions of dollars in economic activity over the course of this shutdown, hurting consumer sentiment and crushing the travel and hospitality industries. According to a CBO estimate, the Democrat shutdown could end up decreasing fourth quarter economic growth by 2 whole percentage points.
Yep.
The Democrat shutdown made it extraordinarily difficult for economists, investors, and policymakers at the Federal Reserve to receive critical government data. The Democrats may have permanently damaged the federal statistical system, with October CPI and jobs reports likely never being released. And all of that economic data released will be permanently impaired, leaving our policymakers at the Fed flying blind at a critical period. It's hard to recap all of this without asking a simple question: why? Why have the Democrats put the American people through this pain for 43 days in a row? And it feels like Groundhog Day being up here again talking about this Democrat shutdown. And the answer to that question is pure partisan politics. They started this shutdown with a ridiculous demand to force taxpayer-funded healthcare benefits to illegal aliens who broke into our country. Even after it was clear President Trump and Republicans would never force American taxpayers to pay for free health care for illegals. In fact, President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill fixed that problem. The Democrats kept dragging this reckless government shutdown on for weeks longer to boost their turnout in an election, perhaps one may guess. That's because the Democrats are totally captured by their far left-wing base, who only care about attacking President Trump, even if it means hurting innocent Americans in our country. The Democrats' weakness and their unwillingness to buck the fringe members of their party dragged this harmful shutdown on for 7 weeks and inflicted massive pain onto the American public. But let's be clear. The clean CR being voted on today in the House of Representatives that will lead to the reopening of the federal government is what President Trump and Republicans have supported from day one. Our troops, air traffic controllers, and federal employees will be back to receiving their regular paychecks. Families in need will get back to receiving their food purchasing assistance, and the people's government will soon be back open for business. President Trump looks forward to finally ending this devastating Democrat shutdown with his signature, and we hope that signing will take place later tonight. On another matter, I want to address the affordability issue that's received a great deal of media attention this past week, which is ironic because it didn't receive that much attention when Joe Biden was here and inflation was at a record high 9%, the worst inflation crisis in modern American history. And President Trump won a landslide election in part to address the affordability issues created by Joe Biden and the Democrats. And that's exactly what President Trump has done since day one of his administration. Since the first day in office and every day since, the Trump administration has taken aggressive action to fix the Biden-created cost of living issues. The notion that the same Democrats who just shut down the federal government to sabotage our economy, rob people of their paychecks, and also helped Joe Biden ratchet up inflation to 9%, are now suddenly affordability champions. That notion is completely absurd. And it's something only the liberal media would have the gall to push. But the reality is that President Trump and his administration have done so much to lower prices and increase the economic prosperity of the American people. And this president and his team of amazing economic advisors are going to keep working on this issue every single day. In less than 10 short months, President Trump signed the largest middle-class tax cuts in American history, including no tax on tips, overtime, and Social Security, which will guarantee that next year Americans are going to put more money back into their pockets. The president has completely unleashed American energy dominance to help bring gasoline prices to the lowest in 5 years, and we expect them to continue to decrease. And it has also lowered energy costs overall. There is more work to do, but again, the president's deregulatory and pro-American energy agenda is absolutely going to continue to drive down prices. This formula worked in the president's first term, and we expect that it's going to work again. And this is key because we know energy costs are the #1 driver of inflation. Again, just look at what Joe Biden did to our energy industry over the past 4 years of his administration, and look at what happened to inflation as a result. Everything became more expensive. To lower prescription drug prices and healthcare costs, the president has been working around the clock on this issue. He is obsessed with negotiating these good deals on behalf of the American people to bring down pharmaceutical costs and drug costs for Americans, and he has done so on a number of fronts. You have seen him discuss that in the Oval Office several times. To fuel small businesses, lower their costs, and incentivize hiring, the Trump administration has already cut 30 unnecessary regulations for every new one on the books, which we know will save employers and small businesses across the country thousands of dollars in regulatory burdens. All of these pro-Trump policies are working, and they will continue to work. Wages are rising at the fastest pace of the start of a presidential administration in 60 years. The cost of the typical new mortgage is down by nearly $3,000 per year. There's much work to do, and this administration will continue to do it. But President Trump has already made great progress in cleaning up the economic disaster that was created by Joe Biden. With that, I will take your questions today, and in our new media seat, we have Bev Turner, who works for a new outlet, a UK outlet, but based here in Washington, D.C., GB News. Bev, thank you for being here today.
These questions will be good.
Thank you, Caroline. So the clock is ticking on the Friday deadline by which the BBC must retract and apologise for their malicious edit of the President in the documentary shown last year. The recently resigned Director General of the BBC yesterday described the organisation as the very best of society and blamed the enemies of the BBC for this outcome. Also yesterday, a senior government minister launched a fierce defence of the channel in the House of Commons, saying that the broadcaster remains a light on the hill for people all over the world. So, does the President feel that the network is taking the situation seriously? Does he believe that they've shown sufficient regret? Does this strain the relationship between the President and the Prime Minister? And given that the organisation is publicly funded, is the President prepared to bankrupt the BBC in his pursuit of truth and justice?
Well, thank you, Bev. There's a lot of questions in one there. I will say I know the President has a very good relationship with Prime Minister Starmer. You have been there. You've seen them in their interactions. You've questioned both leaders in your time joining us when we've gone to the United Kingdom a few different times now. However, he has always been very frank when he disagrees with leaders, even whom he has a good relationship with. And the BBC, being a fair news organization, is definitely an outlet. I think these two leaders would disagree. The President has made it very clear that this is a leftist propaganda machine that is unfortunately subsidized by British taxpayers, and he thinks that's extremely unfortunate for the great people of the United Kingdom and Great Britain. And I think that the President was deeply concerned by the editing, the purposeful and dishonest editing of his speech that was so clearly fake news, and he rightfully dubbed that term many years ago, and this is a classic example of that. We see it in the United States all the time. We see it now in the United Kingdom. As you know, the President's external legal counsel has filed a lawsuit against the BBC. We expect that to continue, and whether they apologize or not is up to them. Thanks for being here, Bev. Ouija.
Thank you, Caroline.
Sure.
I have your statement about the new Epstein emails that have been released by House Democrats. Separate from why you believe the emails were made public, can you address their substance? Did the president ever spend hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a victim?
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. And what President Trump has always said is that he was from Palm Beach, and so was Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. And this email you refer to with the name of a victim that was unredacted now and has since been reported on in this room, so I will go ahead and say it, Virginia Giuffre. And it was CBS's own reporting, Ouija, that recently wrote that Miss Giuffre maintained, and God rest her soul, that she maintained that there was nothing inappropriate she ever witnessed, that President Trump was always extremely professional and friendly to her. And so I think it's a question worth asking the Democrat Party, and you should all go ask them after this briefing, of why they chose to redact that name of a victim who has already publicly made statements about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and is unfortunately no longer with us. Mary.
Thank you, Kelly. 2 questions on this. In the interest of transparency, why not just go ahead, release the full files on Epstein, get this all over with?
This administration has done more with respect to transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein than any administration ever. In fact, this administration, the Department of Justice, has turned over tens of thousands of documents to the American people. We are cooperating and showing support for the House Oversight Committee. That's part of the reason you are seeing these documents that were released today, because of the House Oversight Committee's and Republicans' efforts to get these out to the public. This administration also moved, the Department of Justice also moved to unseal grand jury testimony, which we know, unfortunately, a judge declined those requests. So this administration has done more than any, and it just shows how this is truly a manufactured hoax by the Democrat Party. For now, they're talking about it all of a sudden because President Trump is in the Oval Office. But when Joe Biden was sitting in there, the Democrats never brought this up. This wasn't an issue that they cared about because they actually don't care about the victims in these cases. They care about trying to score political points against President Trump, as we have, of course, seen with this government shutdown. And this entire thing, again, it's not a coincidence to the American people at home. There are no coincidences in Washington, D.C. And it is not a coincidence that the Democrats leaked these emails to the fake news this morning ahead of Republicans reopening the government. This is another distraction campaign by the Democrat and the liberal media, and it's why I'm being asked questions about Epstein instead of the government reopening because of Republicans and President Trump.
But given your interest in transparency, Caroline, why are White House officials then meeting with Representative Boebert in an effort to try and get her to not sign this petition calling for the release of the files?
Doesn't it show transparency that members of the Trump administration are willing to brief members of Congress whenever they please? Doesn't that show our level of transparency? Doesn't that show the level of transparency when we are willing to sit down with members of Congress and address their concerns? That's a defining factor of transparency, having discussions with members of Congress about various issues. And I'm not going to detail conversations that took place in the Situation Room in the press briefing room. Reagan.
I have a question about the government shutdown.
Thank you. I'm glad someone does.
First, on the government shutdown, the shutdown deal reverses the administration's reps, and it also prohibits more from happening until the end of January. I'm wondering if the president had input on this element of the deal, and if he's at all disappointed that's going to reverse the downsizing of federal government like they did during the shutdown.
I mean, look, I think it's about 6,000 workers total. When you look at that in comparison to the reduction in the federal workforce that this administration has done since January to get rid of the waste, the fraud, the abuse, and to reduce the size of our federal bureaucracy, we've done a lot of great work on that front, and we will continue to. But obviously, the president's main priority was to reopen the federal government and get people back to work, and that's what this deal accomplishes.
There's been reports in Israeli media that the U.S. is considering building a temporary military base on the Gaza border. Can you confirm these reports?
So I had a conversation directly with the reporter who wrote this article, and this article was based on a single piece of paper, an inquiry that somebody in the Department of Navy made about an idea that may happen in the future. And this reporter deemed that as an official plan and ran with a story that the United States is looking into it. I checked with the highest levels of the United States federal government. This is not something the United States is interested in being engaged in. It's not something we are currently involved in right now, that we will be funding. And the president has been very clear he doesn't want to see boots on the ground with respect to what's happening in the Middle East. We've made great peace. We've made great progress with the peace plan in Gaza, and we want to continue to see that move forward. But I put a comment in that story for a reason. And sometimes we see reporters take a piece of paper like this and just deem it as official policy, and sometimes that misleads people a little bit. Sure.
There's been a question about UK intelligence sharing regarding the drunk interdictions involving Venezuelan boats. How will that affect the U.S. military operation? There's been a lot of discussion about the high caliber of the intelligence that has been provided before any of these military actions have taken place.
I've seen that report. Oh, hello. I've seen that report. I'm familiar with the reporting, but we don't comment on intelligence matters, classified intelligence matters, as you know. As for the Trump administration's position on our narco-terrorist campaign in the Caribbean, it is going to continue, and the president has made it very clear he's not going to allow terrorists to bring illegal drugs that kill American citizens into our great country. Sure, John. I'll go to John and then Zolan. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Trump has talked about sending out $2,000 checks to U.S. citizens. Earlier this year, he also talked about sending a Doge dividend. That didn't materialize. Should U.S. Citizens expect a $2,000 proposal? Is the White House committed to making that happen?
The White House is committed to making that happen, yes, and we are currently exploring all legal options to get that done. I don't have a timeline for you or any further details, but I can confirm for you that the president made it clear he wants to make it happen, and so his team of economic advisors are looking into it, and when we have an update, we'll provide one. Zolan.
You said at the top that one of the costs of the government shutdown was that people missed their SNAP benefits. Can you explain then why the administration went to court to fight the funding of food stamps and SNAP benefits?
So recipients missed their SNAP benefits because the Democrats shut the government down, and they forced the administration to tap into a contingency fund that did not even fund the full entirety of this program. And so then you had an unhinged judge who was trying to dictate from the bench what the executive branch has to pay for and where that money has to come from. That is judicial overreach at its finest, and so that's why the administration pushed back on that. We can't have the judicial branch telling the executive branch that we need to rob the Children Nutrition Fund, which is what this judge was trying to do, to pay for SNAP benefits. That's completely inappropriate and it's unconstitutional, and we've been proven right with that legal argument. But now the good news is, again, thanks to Republicans and in several hours President Trump, the government is going to be reopened, and SNAP recipients are going to receive their full benefits, which is what President Trump has always wanted to do. Stephen.
Why also did you need the judicial process for that? I mean, during this shutdown, didn't the administration have a responsibility to tap into any of those reserves to ensure that essentially
we did. We did tap into it. We did tap into the contingency fund. And then the judge told us, no, you have to get more money from a children's nutrition fund. And we felt that was judicial overreach. You shouldn't tell the president which fund he has to rob because the Democrats are holding the country hostage by shutting down the federal government. Stephen, go ahead.
Well, if the president is considering a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell?
Again, he's answered this repeatedly. It's not something he's talking about or even thinking about at this moment in time. I can assure you of that. Stephen.
Caroline, I've got two questions about New York for you.
Sure.
First,
you always do. On brand for the New York Post.
Mayor-elect Mamdani, he said that he plans to reach out to President Trump and that, quote, this is a relationship that will be critical. Does the White House have a response to this planned outreach?
It's the first time I'm hearing of it. I'll let the president respond himself to that comment by Mr. Mamdani.
My second question, Jack Schlossberg, the grandson of President Kennedy, announced today that he's running for Congress. He, in the recent past, has referred to his uncle, the HHS secretary, as, quote, a rabid dog, and he has said that the Trump administration is, quote, the most corrupt in American history. Does the White House have a comment on this sort of comment from a rising star in the Democratic Party?
I don't even think such ridiculous comments are responding to. Obviously, those things are not true. And Secretary Kennedy is doing a phenomenal job bringing transparency and the gold standard of science back to our healthcare system. Eamon.
Thank you, Caroline. The president's hosting a number of Wall Street CEOs for dinner tonight here at the White House. Can you give us the names of the CEOs who are going to be here and give us a sense of what the president's message to Wall Street is going to be tonight?
I don't have a full list for you in front of me, Eamon. I know you've reported on some names, and we've helped you navigate whether those names were truthful or false. But I know the president actually plans to bring some of you into the dinner tonight, so you'll see for yourself in several hours if that's okay with you.
And there's been some reporting that the White House is frustrated with Bill Pulte and the rollout of this proposal for a 50-year mortgage. Can you tell us if the White House is frustrated with that rollout and if the White House still supports the idea of a 50-year mortgage for Americans?
This is a proposal that the president himself has commented on. I would refer you to the president's statements, and it's something that the administration is discussing and seriously looking into. Sure. Danny, and then go ahead.
Thank you. Some Democratic members of Congress have invited Britain's former Prince Andrew to testify on the Epstein scandal. I was just wondering if President Trump thinks that former Prince Andrew should indeed come and testify to Congress on that.
I haven't spoken to him about that specific matter, but I can ask him and get back to you.
On the government shutdown, the president and House Republicans have made clear they were not going to negotiate health care strategy or policy while the government was shut down. Now, assuming that it reopens tonight, is the president intending to invite any Democrats over to have negotiations over these subsidies or any other plan to bring down the cost of health insurance?
I will just add that, as you pointed out, the Democrats were holding our country hostage to try to negotiate on a healthcare system that they created. Obamacare, as it's famously called, is a system the Democrats created. It is a broken system. It has driven up healthcare costs dramatically in this country. And now they shut the government down to try to fix that system they broke. It doesn't make any sense to us, which is why the president said that's a completely untenable position. However, once the government reopens, the president, as he's always maintained, is absolutely open to having conversations about healthcare. And I think you'll see the president putting forth some really good policy proposals the Democrats should take very seriously to fix, again, the system that they broke. You can't trust the same people who broke the system to fix it, and so the American people will continue to hear from the president on this issue.
Follow up on the question about the $2,000 payments off tariff revenue. The president had also talked about using tariffs to bring down the national debt. Would this be in lieu of that? Like this is now the new way to maybe to use that tariff revenue?
No, the president put out a statement on this clarifying he wants to do both things with the tariff revenue that he's bringing into this country. Trillions of dollars are expected to continue to pour in, and it's part of the reason that the Supreme Court case is so vital for our country's future, to restore our manufacturing industry in this country, to protect our national security, to continue to allow the president to use tariffs as leverage to negotiate economic deals that are good for our national security, and that revenue can then be used for various reasons, to pay down our debt and also perhaps to give these rebate checks back to Americans, which again the White House is exploring the legal options of how we can get that done. Catherine, go ahead.
Caroline, Viktor Orban said this week that President Trump has promised Hungary some kind of financial shield. Do you have any details on how that will be structured or what that would look like?
I don't, but I'm happy to check with the National Security Council and get back to you.
One more. You recently said you'd check with President Trump about why he needs to get an MRI on his recent trip to Walter Reed. Do you have any more detail on that?
I do, and I'm glad you asked. As stated in the memo provided on October 10th, President Trump received advanced imaging at Walter Reed Medical Center as part of his routine physical examination. The full results were reviewed by attending radiologists and consultants, and all agreed that President Trump remains in exceptional physical health, which I know all of you will see with your own eyes later this evening when he opens up his dinner to the press, and perhaps you will see him when he signs the bill to reopen the federal government. So stay tuned on plans for that. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, real quick, speaking about reopening the federal government, I'm looking at the official House schedule today. They actually track everything they do. Good grief. At noon Eastern time, a couple hours ago, they convened. They started the new legislative day. Within 3 minutes, they put the House to recess. They opened at noon. At 12:02, they held the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, and then literally 1 minute later, they went to recess. This is the first time the House has been open in like a month and a half, almost a month and a half. They opened up for 3.5 minutes, 3 minutes and 27 seconds. So are we going to open up the government or not? So what is going on here today? I said that at the end of the Carolyn Levitt press conference, I would be willing, if they're doing it, I would broadcast the House session with you guys and we would talk about it and continue on with the broadcast today. But they are at recess. Ladies and gentlemen, our House of Representatives has done 3 minutes of work in the last month and a half. In the last month and a half, they have done 3 minutes and 27 seconds of work. And they said, man, okay, we put in that's a good day's work. We're going home. We're going on recess. We're going to go play dodgeball. We're going to go play dodgeball and open up our Lunchables. We're going to sip on a Capri Sun and have some fruit roll-ups and go play dodgeball outside the Capitol building. It's time for recess. So that's that. Really, I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, can we quickly talk? We had a special guest today at the Carolyn Levitt White House press conference. The special guest was, of course, FBI Director Kash Patel. Kash Patel came out and said, hey, listen, as a consequence of President Trump's negotiations and talks, deal-making with the CCP, China has now agreed to seems like they're totally cracking down on the production of fentanyl precursor chemicals. Seems like China's willing to play ball. They're shutting down the outflow of fentanyl, or the precursor chemicals at least, coming out of the country. Now, you can kind of connect 2 and 2. You can kind of piece this together. Is it possible that the reason why Trump is talking about taking in 600,000 Chinese CCP students, handing out 600,000 student visas to members of the CCP, is that a part of the deal? Was a deal struck? All right, China, we will shut down. China says, okay, we are going to shut down the fentanyl. In exchange, you need to double the amount of student visas being given to Chinese students. Might that be a deal that was struck here? Okay, maybe so. And then you can actually move over to the H-1B dynamic. We're talking about these H-1Bs. We need the H-1Bs. We just don't have the Americans. They're not skilled. We don't have skilled Americans to do the work. Well, Trump has been busy making deals with India as well. As you know, 80% of H-1B visas are given to Indians. 80% of them, maybe more, maybe 82%. Trump has been trying to make deals with India. He's been trying to get India to stop purchasing so much energy from Russia. He's been trying to get India to stop buying oil and natural gas, petroleum from Russia, because India, for the last couple of years, by nature of purchasing energy from Russia, India has been effectively subsidizing the war in Ukraine, Russia's war in Ukraine. And so Trump said, listen, India, you got to stop buying Russian energy because we're trying to bring this war to a close. We need to shut down Russia's economy, stop buying their energy. And so maybe a part of that deal to get India to stop buying Russian energy was, all right, India, we're gonna keep the H-1Bs. We're going to keep the H-1Bs. Now, I will say something. I know this is a fact. Fact check me on this. Trump has, in Trump's credit here, Trump has reduced the 2026 H-1B visa allotment by 25% compared to 2025. There's a lot of numbers there. The amount of H-1B visas going out next year, 25% reduction compared to this year, 2025. Now, the 2025 numbers, the number of H-1B visas going out, these were locked in by Joe Biden in 2024. So this year, we're working with Biden's numbers. So Trump's first year, where he had say over the H-1B visa allotment number going into 2026, he has reduced them by 25%. But maybe he hasn't reduced them by 100% because he's making some deal with India in order to get them to stop buying Russian energy. There's a lot at play here. I really wish the Trump admin would just come out and tell us, listen, America, we struck a deal with China. For the next couple of years, we're going to double the rate at which we're giving out Chinese student visas. And in exchange, China has agreed to shut down fentanyl precursor chemical export. That's the deal. I wish they would just tell us so that we could at least try to make sense of it. But instead, it's like, well, we need Chinese students because if we don't, then a bunch of black universities are going to go out of business. The universities are going to go out of business if we don't bring in over 500,000 Chinese students. Okay. Well, Americans are too stupid to do these jobs, so we have to bring in Indians through the H-1B visa program. It's like, dude, just tell us what the deal is. Just be honest. Just tell us. Just be honest. Just come out and say, listen, Americans, President Trump here, we are going to keep the H-1B visa open. We're going to allow another 150 million Indians into the country. And this is a deal that we've struck in order to get them to stop buying Russian energy, to bring the Ukraine war to a close. That's the deal. That's the best deal we could get. To me, that would make a little bit more sense, but I guess not. Maybe the terms of these deals are confidential, and so we have to make sense of them. Or maybe there are no deals. Maybe all of these events are independent of one another. Maybe these are not part of the deals. Now, I want to take a look at some of the super chats here. There have been a lot of super chats. Today has been one of these controversial broadcasts. If you are new, everybody, please make sure to like. Please make sure to subscribe. Listen, for better or for worse, you can disagree with me on some things, but you can't deny that I've got my conviction. I've got my principles. Even if you disagree, you can't deny. It would be much better for me to just sit here and never say anything bad at all. It would be a much more prudent business move. Making money, I'm making money. It'd be better business for me to just keep my damn mouth closed and never levy any critiques or complaints at all, ever. But I'm a principled man. I can't do that. If I have a problem with something, I've got to talk about it. I think like I said earlier, I think it's my patriotic obligation to do so. It's my American obligation to do so. So those of you that do tune in, members of this community, I really do appreciate it. I really do support it. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to follow, make sure to like today's video. We are going to take a look at some super chats right now. If I can pull these up. It seems like I can. Okay, I got the super chats up here. Excuse me. I'm going to work down today. Rich Davis, he says, that's a super chat right there. That's one hell of a super chat. Thank you. He says, I am 100% in agreement with you on everything that has been discussed in today's show. I love Trump, but I would never follow him off a cliff. It is our absolute duty to push back when we feel the need. Thank you. I agree. And God bless. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I think it's probably good some days, I don't know, every couple months to do a broadcast like this. We need to, every couple months, we do a keep it real broadcast. We're keeping it real. And it's not for everybody, but maybe this broadcast is not for everybody. That's okay. In fact, you know what? As they say, if you try to include everybody, then you end up actually including nobody. You have to stand for something. You have to have your policy. You have to have your agenda. Thank you very much. I Died to Game. He says a $300,000 loan with average interest rate, you will pay $900,000 at the end of a 50-year mortgage loan. Yeah. And the median first-time home buyer is 40 years old, so you will pay that off by the time you are 90. By the time you're 90. So thank you. That's awesome. We love that. That's great. Vincente says Zoran Umami Ramadan Salami will be the least popular mayor in 6 to 12 months. Mark my words. You know what? Maybe I actually don't agree, because you need to understand New York City has been flooded with third world immigrants. New York City, listen, 60% of the people that voted for Mamdani are immigrants, non-native born New Yorkers, immigrants to the country, immigrants to New York, predominantly from the third world. I'm going to say something incredibly rude right now. You want to know why third world countries are terrible? You want to know why third world countries are hell on earth? It's because they're full of people from the third world. These countries are dysfunctional because of the people in the countries. They didn't end up that way by accident. And so if New York City is flooded, and it has been, increasingly so, with immigrants from the third world, it's going to become a dysfunctional city. The people are dysfunctional, and they're going to have a dysfunctional city-level legislature. And I have no optimism that they are ever going to turn that around, because it is a people problem. It is a demographic issue. It would be like saying, well, why don't all these Somalians in Somalia just fix their country? Duh, like, hello, just set up a government. Stop killing each other. Stop engaging in maritime piracy. Hello, Somalians. That is your brain. That's your first world American brain. You have an IQ of 115 or 120 or whatever. You're a smart person. They don't have so many smart people over there. These thoughts, they don't pop up in their brains. And this is why it's so important that we don't facilitate endless waves of third world immigrants into this country. Because if we import the third world, we will become the third world. New York City has, in large part, imported the third world. And now they have a third world mayor. And things are going to get bad. And I'm not happy about that either. I hope that right now President Trump arrests Mamdani, denaturalizes him, revokes his citizenship, and deports him back to Uganda. If I could snap my fingers, and then we have 10,000 ICE agents flood the city and systematically deport every single illegal alien. I wish that happened. I wish we would do that. Maybe it happens someday, but until that does happen, I think things are just going to get worse. I don't think that these third world immigrants, they are not going to have this moment of introspection. They're not going to have this epiphany. They're not going to say, "Oh, whoa, what have we been doing?" They are incapable of that, and that's why all the third world countries are terrible, because they are incapable of that. So there's my opinion. I've said my piece on that. PMC says, thanks, Matt Morris, for all the updates and hard work. Much love from Alabama. Happy hump day. Is today? I think today is Wednesday. I'm totally out of the loop. I got I'll be honest, man. Maybe I shouldn't say this. Any time there's some amount of drama or controversy in the Trump base, I'm totally dialed in. I slept 3 hours last night. I was up all night thinking and reading and watching the clips and reading people's commentary and putting my ear to the ground. When we have dynamics like this amongst the America First movement where people are upset, I literally can't sleep. Like, I am dialed in. I am 100%. It's like, have you seen The Matrix? And Neo, he's in The Matrix. He has the cord plugged into the back of his brain. I am plugged into the MAGA Matrix. I'm plugged into the America First Matrix. I am 100% ride or die, all in. I lose sleep over this stuff. I slept 3 hours last night. I'm in a bad mood. Frankly, right now, I'm in a bad mood. Honestly, because of this stuff. It bothers me, and I think about it. It runs through my brain all day. And so I'm happy we're all here together talking about this stuff. Thank you. I appreciate that. White Fox says, hey, thank you, White Fox. Good job, Matt. You have turned this into an anti-Trump channel. The Democrats thank you. You are so dumb. You are so stupid. You're telling me that if I'm championing and supporting every day 99.9% of what Donald Trump does and what the Trump administration does, if I ever pop my head up and critique or say, hold up, wait a minute, at a rate of 0.1%, we're a little bit off base here, that makes me anti-Trump. You are a sycophant. Get out of here. This is a community for patriotic free thinkers, for people that love this country, and you're not going to make it. That's not you. You're a sycophant. You're in a cult. You need to activate your brain. This community is for people that have cognitive function. Did you vote for Joe Biden by chance? There's a cult you might be interested in joining. It's called the Democrat Party. Maybe you should go. Maybe you should go watch Midas Touch podcast. And you can go join a cult. That's not what this is. This is a patriotic, America-loving community. And when things go off the rails, we actually try to get them back on the rails. That's what America First is all about. Can I tell you something, ladies and gentlemen? The year was 2016. It was during the Republican primary. Donald Trump was on stage with 8, 9, 10 other candidates. Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio. All of them were up there. It's 2016. And it was Fox News. It was a Fox News debate. The debate host said, this is the middle of the Republican primary. The debate host says, he asks this question to all the candidates. Says, if you do not end up becoming the Republican candidate in 2016, do you promise to endorse whoever does become the candidate? Raise your hand if you make that pledge to support the Republican candidate. And all of them put their hands up. Other than one. You know who didn't put his hand up? Donald fucking Trump. And I saw that and I said, this guy means business. This guy is willing to burn the entire system down if they do not allow him and get on board with putting America first. Donald Trump is ride or fucking die. It is America first, or I will burn this entire system to the ground. That's Donald Trump 2016. No, I will not endorse these rhino losers. You either holistically 100% push America first, or I'm burning this down. That was Donald Trump in 2016. And you know what he did? He hijacked the Republican Party and he started putting America first. He made the entire rhino establishment bend the knee to him. Okay? And I knew that's what it's all about. This is our guy. That's kind of the energy we have to have sometimes. Really. I think we can all learn a little bit from 2016 Donald Trump. Matt is Israel first. Can I tell you something? I guess I'm just on a mission to lose my followers today. I really couldn't care less about Israel. I think America should entirely stop funding Israel. We should stop giving them money. We give them $3.5 billion a year anytime they have a crisis. Like recently, 6 months ago with Iran, we spent $500 million defending them. We gave them ballistic missile interceptors. We repositioned a naval fleet, an aircraft carrier off the coast of Israel to protect them. We were intercepting missiles on their behalf. I think it's got to be America first right now. We have a huge number of problems in this country. We are $37 trillion in debt. Even if we wanted to defend other countries, we don't have the money to do it. I want you to understand something. Every single time we spend money protecting or defending other countries, we as a nation, we are taking a loan against our own unborn children. Every single dollar we go further into debt, we are saying, well, my grandchild will pay for it. Imagine that. This is what we were doing. We're saying, we're not going to pay the debt now, but maybe my grandchild will pay it 80 years from now. Maybe they'll step up and fix this problem. We got to stop it now. We have our own problems. We've been talking about American domestic problems all day. One of those problems is the national debt and the deficit. We've got to reprioritize our interests here. I really believe that. I really do believe that. That's how I feel. Once again, hey, if you are new, make sure to like and follow and subscribe. Make sure to like and subscribe. Maybe today's a controversial broadcast, so if you are appreciating it, hey, join the community. Now, I do need to wrap up. I want to say thank you, everybody for tuning in. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. If we have some big news about the government shutdown, the government reopening later today, I will go live again. We will cover that. So we got to see I'm gonna have to call an audible though. We'll see what happens. Everybody, thank you very much. I appreciate it, folks. Welcome to the community. If you're here, controversial day. Sometimes you have a controversial day. That's the way it is. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. I really do sincerely love this community. Thank you all. America first until I die. Until I die, and hopefully that's a long time from now. America first until I die. Thank you. Thank you. I'll see you folks later today, no doubt. Until then, God bless and stay safe. Everybody, thank you for tuning in.